Hey there, Easy Math students. Welcome to homework number 7, adding rational numbers. So we're going to use the same rules, DSSM and SSAK, that we used for adding integers and apply them now to decimals and fractions. So the key thing with adding decimals is line up numbers on the decimal. You'll see here what I've done is basically just line up 3 decimals, 2 for the numbers and then 1 for your answer, 2 for the numbers and 1 for the answer, and then you fill in any empty spaces with zeros. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's number 1. I got 2 positives, so it's the same signs, add, keep. Does not matter which number goes on the top when it is same signs, add, keep. When it is different signs, subtract more. It definitely does, but for right now, it does not matter which number. So you'll notice I've lined everything up, and then I just do my normal addition here. I'll get 17.4, and that's my answer. You guys have graph paper, so it should be a little bit easier to line everything up and one number in each box, all right? So here are the answers for 2, 3, and 4. You'll notice in 3 and 4, it is super important that if you say different signs more, they're different signs, that you have to put the one that has more up at the top so you can actually do the proper subtraction. So notice 10.7 because there's more positives one on top here. Notice the negative 15.7 because there was more negatives one on top there. And then you got to remember to put the negative in your answer. Okay. For adding fractions, you got to make sure, number 1, to find a common denominator. And then the second thing you always need to worry about is always simplify, no improper fractions. Okay, so what I mean by no improper fractions, if you get something that's like 8 over 5, you need to know, hey, I got to convert that by dividing 5 into 8. That goes in there one time with 3 left over. So that's how I get 1 and, sorry, not 3/8, but 1 3/5. Okay, so for number 5, the common denominator between 6 and 3 is 6. So I don't need to do anything to negative 1/6, but I do need to multiply 2/3 by 2 on top and bottom to get it to become a denominator of 6. So that's negative 1/6 plus 4/6. And now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and say, oh, this is a DSSM problem. And I'll just subtract. Took out more positives here, so that's why it's really 4 minus 1. Gives me 3/6. The only problem with 3 over 6 is you also have to simplify that because 3 over 6 is really 1/2. So 1/2 is your answer. So there is the answer to number 6. You'll notice that you have more negatives this time, so that's why your answer is negative 1 over 8. You figure out how you have more negatives by actually finding the common denominators and then looking at the numerator. So 6 compared to 5, more negatives. Number 7, it's going to be helpful to kind of break this up. So I kind of just take the whole number and put it off to the side and try and work the fractions first. So then you have to ask yourself, what's the common denominator between 3 and 12? Turns out to be 12, so I just multiply negative 2/3 by 4. I get negative 8/12 plus 3/12 gives me negative 5/12 because it's a DSSM. I have more negatives. And then the key thing here is don't forget about your whole number, right? That just kind of gets dropped on down, and because it's a negative, I just get to add it to negative 5/12, and that's my answer, negative 1 5/12, right? For number 8, you'll notice it's an SSAK problem. You got negative 1/2 and negative 4/5. You multiply 1/2 by 5 and 4/5 by 2, so you can get the common denominator of 10. You just add your numerators, you get negative 13 over 10. But remember, I said no improper fractions, so if I had 13 over 10, I'm saying how many times can 10 go into 13? And it can go in there one time with 3 left over, right? So it's negative 1 3/10 as your answer. Remember to keep that negative sign, all right? You'll notice I have the halves, thirds, fourths, fifths, eighths, and tenths, the fraction and the decimal equivalent. Why? Because in a little bit, I'm going to start throwing stuff like this at you, where I have fraction and a decimal. And basically, I'm going to have to say, wait, 7.5? That's actually, if I take a look at a half, oh, a half is, oh, it's just 0.5. So really, that just says negative 7.5 plus 3.5. And now I can work that as a DSSM problem, and I should be good to go, right? I have more negatives, right? So that's 7.5 up top, 3.5 down below, subtract them, DSSM, right? 0, you get 4.0. So it's negative 4.0 because you have more negatives, right? You could have also said, wait, 0.5 is 1/2, and you could have done it that way, right? So I like just doing decimals, though. So 2.4 plus what's 3/5? You go here, you find your fifths. Up 3/5 is 0.60. So plus really negative 0.60. It's a DSSM problem. And again, you just go ahead and go to work. You have more positives this time, so that's why it goes on top, minus 0.60. Make sure to line up the decimals. 0 minus 0, 0. Can't do 4 minus 6, so you borrow. That gets 14. Minus 6 is 8, and then 1 minus 0 is 1, so negative, positive. Had more positives, my fault. Positive 1.8. Or 1.80, same thing. All right, the last one again, you can just say, wait, negative 1/4. Oh, that's negative. If you go over to the front, what's 1/4? Oh, that's 0.25. So negative 0.25 plus 4.75, and you should be able to line that up and figure that out from there. Okay, that's it. The rest of your homework, make sure to line up decimals when you need to. On these ones, I would suggest adding the positives first, then trying the negatives, adding positives, adding negatives together first, then trying to add the results, and then on 17 through 19, make sure you're finding common denominators.